December 17, 1944. The Ardennes forest is buried under a fresh blanket of snow, and the air is so cold it cuts like a knife. A small German platoon from the 12th SS Panzer Division is creeping through the fog, rifles ready, hearts pounding. These men are veterans, but they're also starving. For weeks, their daily meals have been little more than watery soup and a few slices of bread that tastes like sawdust. Their commander spots what looks like an American supply point just off the main road. It seems lightly guarded. Easy pickings. What happens next will haunt them for the rest of their lives. The fight is over in minutes. A few bursts of machine gun fire, some confused shouts, and the American rear echelon troops scatter. The Germans move in, expecting maybe a few cans of fuel or some spare ammunition. Instead, they find something that stops every single one of them in their tracks. Rows and rows of wooden crates stretch into the mist. Canvas tarps cover stacks that disappear into the treeline. This isn't a supply point. This is an entire American logistics hub, packed to the gills and humming with fresh deliveries. The first man to rip open a crate is a former baker from Hanover named Kurt. His hands are shaking, not from fear, but from pure disbelief. Inside are smaller cardboard boxes, each one perfectly sealed and labeled. He tears one open like it's Christmas morning. What spills out onto the snow isn't just food. It's a miracle. A tiny tin of ham and eggs. Crisp crackers wrapped in wax paper. A dense fruit bar that smells like real dates and figs, a packet of instant coffee that actually smells like coffee. Sugar tablets. Chewing gum. 3 premium American cigarettes. And, most shocking of all, a small roll of toilet paper. Toilet paper. In a combat ration. The men crowd around, voices rising in a mix of laughter and something close to awe. One young soldier, barely 18, named Hans, pulls out a chocolate bar and just stares at it. "This is what they eat every day," he whispers. Another man finds a can of meat and vegetable hash that doesn't need heating to taste like heaven. They pass it around, spoons forgotten, eating straight from the tin with their fingers. Their sergeant, Hans Wagner, tries to keep order, but even he can't look away. He opens his own box and lays everything out on a crate like he's examining evidence in a trial. One meal. Just one. And it has more calories, more flavor, more little comforts than his entire platoon has seen in a month. He does the math in his head. 3 of these a day for every American soldier. Hot meals on top of that when they can get them. And here his men are, surviving on rations that have been cut so many times they barely qualify as food anymore. But what hits Wagner hardest isn't the taste. It's the message written in every perfectly packed item. This isn't the army of a nation scraping by. This is the army of a nation that has so much it can afford to send luxuries to the front lines like they're nothing. As the men tear into crate after crate, laughing for the first time in months, Wagner feels a chill that has nothing to do with the Belgian winter. Because in that moment, every single one of them understands something they can never unlearn. They aren't just fighting soldiers. They're fighting an entire system of abundance so vast, so overwhelming, that their own side suddenly looks like it's already lost. And they've only just begun to scratch the surface of what's inside this depot. The soldiers spread out through the depot like children in a forbidden candy store, but the joy is edged with something darker, something close to shame. They know they have maybe 40 minutes before the order comes to move on, before they have to burn what they can't carry and pretend this never happened. Yet no one rushes. They linger. They savor. And they talk. Private Franz Dietrich, the youngest in the platoon at 18, sits cross-legged on an ammunition crate, slowly chewing a square of American chocolate. He's never tasted anything so smooth, so rich. Back home in a small village near Bremen, chocolate was something his mother saved for Christmas, if there was any to save. Now he holds an entire bar, and half of it is already gone. He looks up at the others and says quietly, almost to himself, "They pack this for every soldier. Every day." Kurt, the old baker, has moved deeper into the largest tent. He's methodically opening crate after crate, reading labels aloud like a man trying to convince himself the words are real. Spam. Corned beef hash. fruit cocktail in syrup, powdered milk. He stops at a wooden box stenciled 10 in 1 rations. Inside are larger tins meant to feed 10 men for a full day. He lifts one labeled pork luncheon meat and turns it over in his hands. They even give them dessert. Chocolate pudding. In a can. Sergeant Wagner walks the rows, forcing himself to stay focused. He needs to know exactly what they found so he can report it accurately later, if anyone will believe him. He counts crates, at least 30 just of K-rations in this section alone. Each crate holds 48 individual meal units. That's over 1,400 single meals in one stack. And this is only one corner of one tent. He stops beside a pile of discarded American trash. Empty ration boxes, crumpled cigarette packs, even a few half-eaten bars someone had thrown away because they didn't feel like finishing them. Wagner picks up a crumpled wrapper. The label reads, Hershey's Tropical Chocolate Bar, Emergency Ration D. Designed not to melt in jungle heat. They threw it away. He feels a twist in his stomach that has nothing to do with hunger. One of the machine gunners, a quiet man named Otto who rarely speaks, suddenly laughs, a short, bitter sound. Look at this. He holds up a small packet from a K-ration. Toilet paper. They give them toilet paper so they don't have to use leaves or their sleeve. We use newspaper when we have any. Most days we don't. The laughter spreads, but it's hollow. Everyone hears the unspoken part. The Americans have so much that even their waste is richer than German plenty. Wagner finally calls them together near the center aisle. We take what we can carry. 1 ration box per man. Cigarettes, chocolate, coffee, anything small. The rest we destroy when the time comes. No souvenirs. No delays. The men nod, but their movements are slow. They pack carefully, almost reverently. No one wants to crush the crackers or dent the tins. They treat the food like fragile treasure. As they work, the conversation turns. It always does. Hans Pfeiffer, the boy who cried earlier, wipes his mouth with the back of his hand and says, My mother wrote last month. She said the bread ration in Hamburg is down to 200 grams a day. Sometimes less. No fat, no meat. She boils potato peelings for soup. And here. He gestures at the endless rows. They throw this away. No one answers right away. Then Kurt speaks, voice low. Not just here. Everywhere. The logs show convoys come 3 times a week. Fresh supplies. Regular. Like a shop in peacetime. Wagner looks at the clipboard hanging from a tent pole. A German soldier who knows a little English has already skimmed it. Scheduled deliveries. Stock levels updated daily. Requisitions approved without question. The Americans don't beg for supplies. They order them. Otto lights one of the Chesterfields and inhales deeply. His eyes close for a second. Real tobacco. Not that sawdust we get mixed with beech leaves. He exhales slowly. You know what this means, don't you? Everyone does. They just don't want to say it out loud. Wagner says it for them. It means their factories never stopped. Their farms never emptied. Their ships never stopped crossing the ocean. While we ration every bullet, every liter of fuel, every crumb, they live like this. He pauses, then adds the part no one wants to hear. And we're supposed to beat them. The tent goes quiet. Even the sound of chewing stops. Outside, the fog is beginning to lift. Pale winter sunlight filters through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, American artillery rumbles, a reminder that the offensive is still moving, that the war hasn't paused just because they found a treasure trove. Wagner looks at his watch. 10 more minutes. Then we move. The men pack faster now, but the mood has changed. The initial frenzy is gone. What's left is a heavy, wordless understanding. They aren't just eating better food. They're tasting the future. And it doesn't belong to them. They load their packs, sling rifles, and prepare to leave the depot behind. But every man carries something invisible with him when they step back into the snow. Doubt. Because once you've seen what victory actually looks like, once you've held it in your hands and felt how heavy real abundance is, you can never go back to pretending the struggle is equal. The war will go on. They will keep fighting. But deep down, in the quiet moments between shell bursts and frostbite, every one of them will remember this morning. And they will wonder, not if Germany can still win, but how long they can keep pretending it's even possible. The platoon moves out at last, packs heavier with pilfered American rations, but the weight in their chests is heavier still. The fog has burned off completely now, revealing a winter landscape that looks almost peaceful, rows of snow-laden pines, the distant rumble of artillery like far-off thunder. They rejoin the main advance, falling back into the rhythm of the offensive. March, halt, take cover, repeat. But something has shifted inside them. The food in their bellies is warm and satisfying in a way German rations never were, yet every swallow carries the aftertaste of realization. For the next 3 days the captured supplies become a kind of currency among the company. A single American cigarette buys a favor, a turn-on watch, an extra blanket. The chocolate bars are hoarded like gold. Men break off tiny pieces to make them last. The instant coffee, real coffee, is brewed in mess tins over tiny fires, and the smell alone draws soldiers from neighboring platoons who pretend they're just passing by. For a brief window, morale climbs. Tired men stand straighter. Jokes return. Even the endless cold feels slightly less cruel when there's something hot and sweet to drink. Then the rations run out. By the 4th day the last K-ration is gone, the final cigarette stubbed out. They're back to the familiar German issue, a fist-sized lump of dark bread that crumbles like dry earth, a sliver of sausage more gristle than meat, a potato boiled so long it's mostly water. The contrast hits like a physical blow. Men who had forgotten what true hunger felt like now remember it in sharp, painful detail. The young grenadier Hans Pfeiffer stops eating altogether for a day, staring at his portion as if it has personally betrayed him. "I can still taste the ham," he mutters to no one in particular. "How am I supposed to go back to this?" Discipline frays in small, almost invisible ways. Rations disappear from packs. A sergeant catches 2 men trading a hidden chocolate bar for socks. Punishments are handed out, but half-heartedly. Everyone understands. The officers pretend not to notice the hoarding because they're doing it too. Wagner keeps his own counsel. He writes nothing in his small notebook about the doubts that have taken root. Instead he notes the practical things, how quickly the men tire now, how their hands shake when they try to aim, how the cold seeps deeper into bones that no longer have the fuel to fight it. He has seen combat performance drop before, after Stalingrad, after Kursk, but never so clearly tied to something as simple as food. On the evening of December 22nd, the entire offensive stalls. The spearheads that punched deepest are now surrounded by growing American resistance. Fuel trucks never arrive. Ammunition dwindles. Men dig in wherever they can find cover, turning frozen fields into shallow scrapes. Wagner's platoon occupies a line of abandoned Belgian farm buildings on the edge of a village called Malmedy. The roof still holds, that alone feels like luxury. That night the company commander, Hauptmann Kessler, calls his platoon leaders to the farmhouse kitchen. A single candle burns on the table. Kessler looks 10 years older than he did a week ago. He has been ordered to submit a report on the captured depot. Higher headquarters wants details for future planning. He listens without interruption as Wagner describes the crates, the labels, the logs showing thrice weekly convoys, the sheer volume of food that could have sustained a regiment for weeks. When Wagner finishes, Kessler exhales slowly. And the effect on the men? Wagner chooses his words with care. They fought harder for 3 days. Then they remembered what they were missing. Now they fight because they have no choice. But they ask questions, Herr Hauptmann. Quietly. The kind of questions that don't have good answers. Kessler rubs his temples. Every company that hit an American supply point is sending the same report. The quartermaster general already knows. We were supposed to live off captured stocks. Instead we found proof that even their forward depots are better supplied than our best rear areas. No one speaks for a long moment. Outside, wind rattles the shutters. Then Kessler says the thing they've all been thinking but no one has dared voice. If their logistics are this strong in December 1944, what must they have waiting across the Rhine? What do they have in England, in America itself? We were told their industry was crippled by U-boats, by bombing. Clearly someone miscalculated. He looks around the table. We keep fighting. That's the order. But we fight with our eyes open now. The meeting ends. The men return to their positions. Wagner takes first watch on the roof, staring into the dark. He thinks about the depot again, not the food, but the system behind it. Factories running day and night. Ships crossing oceans without fear. Farms the size of small countries. An enemy that can afford to waste food because it produces so much more than it needs. He thinks about his own country, fields lying fallow because the farmers are dead or in uniform, trains bombed to twisted metal, horses starving because there's no fodder left after feeding the guns. He thinks about the civilians back home, surviving on turnips and rumors, while across the lines the enemy throws away chocolate bars they don't even want. Dawn breaks gray and merciless. American artillery starts again, methodical, precise. Shells walk across the fields like giants taking measured steps. Wagner's men huddle deeper into their holes, faces drawn, eyes hollow. They will hold this line as long as they can. They will fire until the ammunition runs dry. They will die if ordered. But none of them will ever again believe the propaganda posters that promise final victory through will alone. Because they have tasted the truth. And the truth is bitter, but it has calories. Far more than anything Germany can give them now. The war will drag on for months yet. Cities will burn. Rivers will run red. Millions more will die. But on that snow-covered morning near Malmedy, when a handful of hungry soldiers opened a few American crates, the end was already written. Not in battle plans or grand strategy, but in the simple, devastating arithmetic of abundance versus scarcity. Germany had run out of everything except courage. America had everything except limits. And in the end, that was the only battle that truly mattered. The dinner table decided the war long before the last shot was fired.